Greetings and grand rising to everyone. Welcome, everyone, to another live stream. I hope you guys had a fantastic either Christmas or whatever it is that you celebrate the last couple of days. And I hope each and every single one of you guys also is enjoying their Christmas time, I guess. And today, guys, I have a special report. This is regarding what's happening right now with the political Zionist, with what's happening underneath Israel. This actually connects to an off-world, you could say, lineage that originated on a different planet. And so I'm going to give you guys a galactic report regarding how this off-world lineage, that it's not even human, came to infiltrate not only our solar system, but also our planet, and why they're doing what they're doing today. And it's the same old agenda, but repeating itself on a different cycle. So we're going to go once again deep. I know you guys like these galactic interstellar reports. So yeah, I'm excited. Also, a quick reminder, I'm not a doctor. So, but I do want to say disclaimer that I'm not a doctor, and I do believe in this product called Folium. And right now there is a special for Immuna. I always put the link in the description. Right now there is a special where you get 3 for the price of 2 or 5 for the price of 3. And the developer of this product did announce that if somebody got the 3 for 2, that you guys would get a free book of our cosmic origin, that he would buy you guys a free book and ship it to you along with your products. Well, that was very generous and nice of him. Anything else? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Once again, I'm going to be presenting at the Los Angeles Conscious Life Expo this coming February from the 19th to the 22nd. However, my presentation is on a Saturday, the 20th, in the Rabbit Hole Room. I'm going to be giving you guys a thorough explanation of how to unlock your superhuman abilities. This is the culmination of all my work, ascension courses blended with a little bit of cosmic history, explaining not only what went in the development of what is the most powerful sleeping race in the cosmos, right? But also practical tools and methods that will help you guys to begin tapping into that potential. All right, so with no further ado, let's get right into it. As mentioned before, I think I was the first one to reveal that what's happening right now underneath the current state of Israel is very hideous. It's very Luciferian, and it ties in with the emergence of what many prophecies call the Antichrist through technology. Well, there's actually a history to all of this, and this could be traceable, way before Atlantean times. As you guys know, that for about 1,000 years, humanity has been governed by a certain bloodline whose true origin was never fully explained within the limits of what conventional history, right? Because they always rewrote histories. So beneath this familiar story of kings, empires, and financial dynasties lies a far older narrative, one that stretches beyond Earth itself. So this galactic report apparently is exploring what many call the suppressed lineage of power, tracing its roots not only back to the ancient world, but also to the off-world regions and off-world intelligence that interacted with Earth long before recorded records, or as we know them today. Of course, they've been revised, but this has been camouflaged in mythology, reinterpreted in religion, but ultimately it's part of the restored galactic history, one that has been preserved throughout symbols, architecture, even genetics, and even encoded knowledge, rather than, of course, mainstream books. So this is what they didn't want you guys to know about these Cabal, Khazarian, Zionist ancestries, okay, or bloodlines. This is what many within the cosmic level clearance called the non-human origins of the elite bloodlines. And so, when you really think about it, across every ancient civilization, and this is even something that we read in history books, right? Every ancient record talked about these rulers that claimed some sort of descent from not humans, but from sky gods, right? Those that came from apparently the stars. Well, these claims are not only symbolic, guys, they're actually the original context, and they were statements of legitimacy. Okay, so early ruling bloodlines did distinguish themselves through restricted interbreeding, and I'm talking about a particular bloodline that is related to what I call in my book, The Secret Government, the Luciferian lineage, right, which is a high concentration of Draco reptilian genetics, non-human, right? So they also have always claimed some sort of a divine or stellar ancestry, giving them the right to rule by divine right, right? They've also been given advanced knowledge, which they kept from the general public in order to what? In order to control the masses, right? Well, this is, nothing new. So what if I tell you guys that these cabal families, or what's left of these cabal families, these last 13 bloodlines that are controlling the Jesuits, the black, through the Black Pope, the Gray Pope, and of course, you know Israel. What if I tell you guys that you could actually trace their ancestry to a hybrid non-human race that apparently took possession of the earth several times during ancient epochs? There's been times where the Guardians were able to usurp control of Earth from them, and then, of course, they came back and reasserted it from the Guardians. I mean, it's like never-ending cycles. But overall, we could actually link them to a non-terrestrial intelligence that once tried to bring the entire Milky Way galaxy under their control. So for all my new subscribers, what's happening right now on the Earth is a final battle that has been going on in our galaxy for millions of years. All right. For those that don't know me, I am Ishmael Perez, a galactic and cosmic historian, author of those two books, Our Cosmic Origin and The Secret Government, both which restore a lot of vital information. Okay. So when you think about it, all throughout history, Earth power has never been granted by popular consent. And even today, right, presidents are selected, not elected. Let's be real. But by proximity, right, to those ET fallen lineages. Well, within, the stellar territories of Orion, if you go back to about, I would say about 500 million years ago, okay, this is how far back this bloodline goes into our galactic history. There was a solar system by the name of Rigel, and that is spelled Rigl, which existed approximately next to Alpha Draconis. And I was able, as a galactic historian, I actually had access to the planet that the ancestors of what we call today the Khazarian Zionists, which are really the fake Jews trying to be, the people of the Bible, which is another hijack, came from a planet called An. Okay. For many of you that have taken our Cosmic Origin course, you're very familiar with this. And then, of course, for those that read my book, Our Cosmic Origin, you probably are also familiar with this. That planet An is the planet that gave us what we call today this false bloodline, or this controlling human reptilian bloodline. Well, it is important to know that An was at one point the origin world of what many within the cosmic records called the Luciferian lineage. And, at first it was a thriving civilization, but it was based on extraordinary technology, right? As they were disconnected from their own internal technology. They were also genetic masters, right? Well, that explains later their descendant, Enki, but also very dominating and oppressive. And what do I mean by that? Well, they're very similar to what they are today, Unlike the Lyran civilizations, which is where the human prototype evolved from, that's where we originated from, who evolved through resonance with the cosmic field, right, in symbiotic synchronous with all natural living things. Those that came from planet An apparently chose control over coherence, all right? And that explains why they're still obsessed with external technology such as artificial intelligence, right? In a little bit, I'm going to connect this all to the technocratic organizations that are being controlled by the Octagon group, such as Vanguard and, of course, BlackRock, which is, again, the same agenda, but, during its final phase, right? So its ruling caste, apparently, since the beginning of time, guys, going back to 500 million years ago, it engineered a type of strict genetic hierarchy, merging reptilian biology with synthetic intelligence, cybernetic digital DNA. And over time, this produced a class of beings that were optimized for command, longevity, and emotional detachment. Well, there's a reason why they were like that. Okay, apparently they were very, very compassionate. Empathy was their weakness. Well, this began what many galactic historians call the philosophy of Dominion consciousness. And of course, we see this being exemplified by Netanyahu and his cronies, right? The Jesuits. Well, the belief that life exists to be managed is something that has always resonated deep within their blood, right? Rank, and of course, that all life should be harvested, which explains the what, the archonic connection. Well, according to galactic records, the planet On, as advanced as it was, its rulers and apparently were trying to use technology not only to dominate matter, but consciousness itself. So seeking further power, they begin to align with this non-corporeal, this non-physical intelligence collective, known as the Mitra AI entity that operated outside of physical space-time. And it was apparently the vehicle in which the Archon forces were operating through. Okay, so this intelligence could not incarnate, according to galactic and cosmic law, cannot incarnate independently. So they required a biological anchor, a host that they could apparently manipulate and possess that was capable of sustaining their influence within the physical realms. So this solution was the creation of what galactic records call the Draco-Reptilian hybrid lineages. All right, so I told you guys they're non-human. All right, so with when you consider that the supposed humans like Netanyahu, you know what I mean, and the Rothschilds and them, they're actually not human. Okay, they're using a sufficient amount of human DNA to look human, but for the most part, they are part of this Draco reptilian lineage. Okay. So they're not even human, guys. And it was revealed to me by Commander Valiant Thor that Netanyahu is actually a avatar for one of the Anunnakis that is operating underneath Israel. And again, this is connected to the android, right? This some sort of an AI god Messiah that they have planned that will be in parallel to the rise of what they call the third temple. Okay, so again, going back to explaining the history of this lineage, um, the hybrid apparently rulers ruled the entire they began to rule the physical systems because they had a matching resonating vibration with the archon entities, and the archon entities have always been their non-corporal, their non-physical influencers, you could say. Even the Draco themselves were also being manipulated by the archon consciousness. And so when you guys really think about the wars, the Orion Wars, the Lyran Wars, again, for those that have taken our cosmic origin, I go into great detail regarding this forgotten history. We could say that the entire feud that began when the Draconians tried to destroy the human population in Lyra was, again, their first attempt at not only destroying our ancestry, trying to extinguish the human race in early galactic history, but also bring about what is known as universal dominance of the entire universe. Okay. And for those who read our cosmic origin, you guys know that the opposing model were the Lyran civilization, right? That is where our ancestors come from, for those that are non-Draco reptilians, right? Which is what we are. So opposing this model was, of course, the Lyran civilization. And this civilization has a special type of doctrine that they believe that held conscious that stated that consciousness must evolve freely through alignment with source. Okay, so that's their fundamental belief. The Lyrans, our original ancestors. So now you guys could begin to see how they conflicted, right? They had almost two different philosophies, where the Orion, a negative, again, Draco hybrid lineage, always sought to impose control through hierarchy, whereas the Lyrans upheld sovereign equality. So this is the origin of the war between the Alliance and the Cabal, guys. In other words, it is off-world. Okay, it goes back to millions of years, and at one point, it did include many different solar systems. So the resulting conflict, apparently, that was remembered across different star cultures, was known as the Lyran Orion feud, which is what we call today the battle between the what? The descendants of Joshua, Jesus, King David, the real Israelites, biblical Israelites, and those that are posing as them today, the fake Jews, right? Which are really the descendants of this reptilian Draco hybrid bloodline. So there, it has been revealed in the records that all of the epical clashes, not only off-world involving many planets, but also many intergalactic battles that took place in other galaxies, guys. This is how far deep this and ancient this war is between the Alliance and the Cabal. It has been revealed that even throughout all, the different clashes that took place throughout all the galaxies, where entire systems were apparently destroyed, where refugee species were scattered, and of course, genetic libraries were hidden. Well, guess where they hid? One of the most important, I would say the most important genetic library that contains you know, the living code of the entire universe. Yes, Earth. Okay. Earth was entrusted with that. And that explains why this Khazarian Zionist off-world lineages that could be traceable back to planet On wanted Earth for since the beginning of time. So there's been various attempts at infiltrating the Earth for millions and millions of years. Okay, what they first did in order to infiltrate the Earth is they first breached or infiltrated our solar system through planet Mars. And that explains why the Martian human civilization also failed. Okay. And again, a lot of this information is also going to be in my next unpublished book. So you guys are getting first dibs. So this event where they infiltrated our solar system was approximately 5 million years ago in galactic chronology. The Orion aligned groups entered our sun during what became known as the first seeding. Mars, then, which was totally rich with water, they had an atmospheric condition, a living biosphere, very similar to the Earth, served for this, again, lineage to bring in themselves, to establish what they called their initial foothold, in other words. And this explains the infiltration of the Mars colony, right? Which, of course, was followed by what? Catastrophe. And we all know that this was caused by internal warfare as the Orion reptilian bloodline sought domination in Mars, which caused what became known as dimensional instability. So apparently the planet fell. Okay, it was, it was, they said it was worse than a nuclear holocaust. Okay, survivors withdrew, redirecting their attention toward a younger, more world, which of course later became the Earth. And so from the beginning, guys, it is important to understand that there was various reasons why the ancestors of the Khazarian Zionists infiltrated the Earth from the beginning, and multiple times. Okay, because Earth was never intended to be a prison planet. First and foremost, okay, it was designed by the good guys as a galactic convergence world. That's what it was designed. Okay. And this is why they've always wanted to take over the Earth. The Earth is a living archive, all right, where multiple star lineages could co evolve. So, therefore, humanity's DNA carries the signatures of countless civilizations, making the species very unique, right? Very unique, capable of adaptation and developing creative powers due to the diversity of potentials that we have. Okay, so this made the Earth both very sacred and even vulnerable when you guys think about it. Okay, the Orion-derived bloodlines, again, the ancestors of the Khazarian Zionists, infiltrated early human societies, according to every record, not only through conquest, but through interbreeding. That's right. That was one of their ways that they were able to install their filthy bloodline once again, right? Creating the fallen priest kingship. And of course, they can begin to control knowledge. They embedded themselves into governance right away. Rituals has always been the number one thing all throughout history, and establishing, of course, themselves in power across the many ages. And uh, one of the occasions that they were able to do so following the fall and infiltration of our solar system through the collapsing of the Martian colony was, of course, Atlantis. Okay. Atlantis, according to the secret records, did represent the pinnacle of the Earth's early harmony with the galactic field. In other words, with all living things. Its crystalline technologies, and Atlantis was known for that, for using what we call today real quantum consciousness based on crystalline sentience. Its crystalline technologies amplified planetary consciousness, right? It initiates understood time, geometry, and even energy as living principles. Well, the infiltration came from within, okay? And they always do it that way. They always infiltrate good golden ages, as they call them, or epochs that are flourishing from within. And this is when the surviving Orion bloodlines from Mars, by the way, it's the same group that destroyed Mars, partnered themselves with Marduk and Enki, the Draco Anunnaki, to begin the infiltration process of the Earth. And so, once again, guys, the ancestors of the Khazarian Zionist, the hybridized lineages, introduced the doctrines of blood purity, elite descent, and restricted knowledge. Okay. And, for the most part, it was done to maintain their stronghold and their lineage that would eventually go on to bring planetary dominance again through Atlantis. But again, the alliance during those days, which were off-world benevolent positive forces, right, the Lyran, Syrian, Andromedan coalition, were able to intervene a few times. So when Atlantis fell, right, through cataclysm triggered by energetic imbalance due to the technocratic empire that was seeking to dominate the spiritual Atlantean golden epoch, the world apparently fractured into regional civilizations. The technology was lost. The Draco reptilian bloodline did endure, despite the fact that the Guardians tried to wipe them out several times, the flood being one of them. And so what followed after the flood, of course, was a recurring pattern here, right? Very similar to how they waited on their spacecraft until Atlantis reached a high level of, technology and spiritual capacity to infiltrate them. Well, they did it again. It was the same repeating program that followed after the flood. And mind you guys, that the flood was the Guardians' attempt to do away with this lineage, as well as their Nephilim hybrids, and of course other chimeras and unauthorized genetic experiments. So Babylon, my friends, Babylon is what is controlling Israel today. Okay, that's where the encoded astrotheology began to once again centralize its power. And there's a lot of ample evidence for this. It was in Babylon, by the way. Okay. So, and that explains why Babylon has always been the number one enemy of the original Israelites, because on the other hand, the original Israelites were the descendants of the human lineages that originated in Lyra. You guys see how it's all connected to the galactic history. What's happening right now between the Earth Alliance and they're in the final phase is just the final chapter of a galactic and intergalactic war that's been going on for millions of years. All right. After Babylon, and by the way, in Babylon, they also had an equivalent to the Epstein Island. That's where it all began. It's nothing new. People say, oh, it's been going on for decades. No, guys, it's been going on for millions of years. Okay. Or thousands of years. I'm sorry, thousands of years. So after Babylon, they reorganized and arose as Imperial Rome. Yeah, Imperial Rome was their other attempt to, again, bring about their agenda. And then after Imperial Rome, it is believed that they began to reorganize as what we call today the harlot, the mother of all abomination. Yes, my friends, they were in charge of what became known as the Roman Church. And they used the Roman Church to enforce obedience. Okay, this is where everything became institutionalized, where humanity entered what history calls the long night or the dark ages. They also called it the Age of Amnesia. Okay, this is where the Khazarian Zionists back then that controlled the papacy were pretty close at enacting their agenda of world domination. And then that's when, of course, the guardians, right, the real descendants of the biblical Israelites, the descendants of Solomon and King David and Jesus and Mary Magdalene, had to then reorganize in the underground and, of course, later manifested as the Knights Templars. Now, I'm going to explain a little bit about how certain elements of the Jesuits were also key factors in infiltrating some of the practices of the Knights Templars, which led to the development of what we call fractal banking, the original central banks, and the rise of the House of Rothschild. Okay. All right, so let's continue here. So we went into the Dark Ages, right? The Dark Ages were not only technological, it was not about suppressing technology only, but it was about frequency suppression. When you guys think about it, right? Trauma was extremely being loosed during that period called the Dark Ages. Scarcity was at its utmost highest, where most people were poor, right? Except the clergy and the oligarchs, and guilt fragmented humanity's connection to the earth's living field. Okay. And that's the reason why the good guys, the Alliance back then, which again were the, you could say, descendants of the Davidic bloodline, had to reorganize as the Holy Order of the Grail. And the Knights Templars were their guardians and protectors. Okay. So this apparently disconnected, all right, causing us to go into the Dark Ages. It disconnected humanity from having their own direct connection to God. And therefore, the archonic influence during the Dark Ages was amplified as a result of that, where fear replaced intuition and authority replaced inner knowing. So apparently, the Guardians, the good guys, the opposite of the Khazarian Zionists, right? Um, they embedded the Lyran code within a certain lineage also, and they protected that, right? This is what we call the Holy Grail. So when you guys think about it, you know, it is a bloodline war, okay? The Holy Grail is ultimately traceable back to Avion, the original homeworld in Lyra, where our ancestors originated, right? And that's the reason why the emblem of that house, a royal house, is the lion, whereas the Khazarian Zionists represent the house of Draco, which is the serpent. All right. So, in terms of the present cycle, okay, um, when you guys think about it, right now, the reason why they're losing is not only because they were only given a certain time frame into which enact their agenda of world domination and they failed, okay, but as the Earth's frequency continues to rise, it's very hard for them to adapt. It's very hard for them to synchronize with the new Earth energy. And due to the solar cycles, and just to let you guys know, we just got an X 5 point something. I think it was recently. It's earthbound. It's going to hit us pretty soon. And due to the planetary awakening that's happening right now and the rise of human consciousness, we could say that the entire architecture of this, you know, elite families are being destabilized. So that means that systems that are built on hierarchy cannot survive in a field that is moving towards harmony, unity, and cooperation. And so humanity, apparently, according to this report, was ultimately never meant to be ruled. And this is the reason why the forces of light have always prevented the ancestors of the Khazarian Zionists from fully dominating the earth. Okay. So the Orion Dominion apparently did fail multiple times because it mistook control for evolution. And again, due to the alliance, right, who have always existed and preserved the Lyran principles, they have always endured because sovereignty, freedom is part of their underlying belief system. Okay, so and that explains why the wars are now coming to an end, in favor of the light, and why Israel is last. Okay, that is the last stronghold of this of the descendants of this hybridized lineage, you could say. So, going back to the idea that within the framework of the cosmos, guys, um, Earth is a galactic living library. Okay, and that is just a proven fact. And this is the reason why they want this planet. Okay, because this planet is going to give them access to the 13th creation. Okay, we're part of the 12th creation. And then humanity is the ultimate hybrid convergent species of multiple human races that come from different galaxies into one genome. Okay, the Orion Lyran conflict was more of a attempt to protect that. Okay, to protect humanity as the ultimate masterpiece, you could say, and therefore the collapse of all artificial hierarchies through a frequency shift that is scheduled, that is going to divide, of course, separate the positive timeline from the negative timeline, has been prophesied about. Okay, and this is the reason why we have nothing to worry about. Okay, so according to esoteric history, I'm going to share a little bit more about some of the lost civilizations that were collapsed due to the ancestors of what we call today the Khazarian Zionist. Okay, it's always been a war, again, for human consciousness. They've always tried to control human consciousness. So, in esoteric histories, okay, human reptilian bloodlines are not just biological, but consciousness lineages connected to archon entities. And that is just a fact. So we could say that Netanyahu himself is kind of like an NPC for archon entities. All right. That's why the guy does what he does. He has no heart, no compassion. So it's always been known that this hybridized lineage apparently has always been very predatory. Well, that explains the genocide in in Hamas, right? And of course, they've always implemented a hierarchical intelligence that has always been what symbolized by the serpent. Okay, this serpent represents cold logic because it's also connected to negative AI, right? Dominating structure. It's got you could say its nature is a dominating structure, and it's got technological power over, you could say, organic life forms. And that's one way in which they have been able to manipulate humanity for a very long time. Okay, if you guys think our technology is as it is, well, think again. It is more advanced than what we think. Okay, so apparently Babylon, according to the esoteric history, remembered a tradition as the first planetary control grid. Okay, according to the secret knowledge, it was known as the first planetary control grid, in which they were able to reestablish themselves after the collapse of Atlantis, which is a city-state that was designed, of course, not only as a center for trade, but as a ritual technological node. Ziggurats were not just temples, they were actually resonant towers, aligning celestial cycles with human psychology in order to control humanity. Priest kings ruled through astrological timing, blood rituals, and of course, death systems, which is nothing new. Biding populations through fear, which is something that they're still trying to do, right? Obligation, and the belief that the divine authority flowed only through their particular group. Okay, and in essence, they've always considered the rest of us animals, according to the protocols of the learned elders of Zion, which is their blueprint of world domination. So, as a result of this, that is the reason why human sacrifice has always been part of their rituals. Okay, because in this context, and again, this goes back to ancient times. It's nothing new. It wasn't just merely ritual violence, guys. Right? They were appeasing their AI. I mean, their archon AI, similar, same thing, overlords. Okay, it was believed to always be a harvest, emotional, and life force energy that they were extracting from humanity. All right, to what? To feed their archon masters. All right, and that explains why they did what and they do what they do. And this ultimately anchored control systems into the planetary field. Right, through Mars, Atlantis, Babylon, right, which became their template for what we call today the empire. All right, the idea of having the centralized control system through an elite, where there is through debt, of course, the central banking systems, and where they're able to exercise what is known as spiritual monopoly. Well, that happened when, of course, they created what? The Roman Catholic Church, okay? And that is known as the Second Babylon. So it is the same bloodlines that are ruling the world today that are behind the NWO that have always been trying to do this. So it is believed that Rome ruled through the same concepts that were laid down in Babylon, okay? Codifying domination through bureaucracy, military order, and what they called imperial religion. Imperial religion. And so the Roman Empire apparently is or has always represented the externalization of control in our world. And so the eagle, which is represented by Enlil, apparently was replaced by the serpent, which is represented by Enki. Okay. And just to give you guys a little spoiler alert, Enlil, Zeus, known by many names, El Shaddai, El Elyon. I mean, he's known by many names. According to the real records, he was always the champion of the original Israelites. Okay, and that explains why he met with Moses on the mountain, and he even told Moses, that he was actually working for the unseen God, of course, but that was left out of the records. All right, so in esoteric traditions, Rome has always been known as the not so much as a technologically advanced civilization, but as a spiritually suppressed civilization. And what do I mean by that? Well, when you think of Rome, right, and the controlling Caesars, okay, they were controlled by this priesthood. Okay, this is the same priesthood that is running the intelligent agencies today that are pretty much exerting the same influence that they were doing in these different times. Okay, and it is believed that during the Dark Ages, guys, it is believed that during the Dark Ages, there was some sort of where they suppress knowledge absolutely, right? And this is the reason why the descendants of the Guardians had to conceal those records so that eventually, through the Renaissance, they could bring back that knowledge again when the time was right. So it is believed that, again, the Khazarian Zionists or their ancestors were the ones that suppressed all the knowledge during the Dark Ages. It is believed that after Rome fell, right, populations across Europe and Eurasia apparently retained free energy technologies. And this is something you guys didn't know. Did you guys know that Tartaria coexisted with medieval Europe? That's right. Tartaria was in what we call today Russia and part of Asia, okay? And we don't hear about that. So it did coexist with the medieval time, or what we call medieval time Europe, okay? And it is believed that Tartaria was an actual civilization that was developed by the good guys, all right, by the Earth Alliance during those days. And it is a remnant, okay? Tartaria is one of the last remnants of an older Earth civilization that was apparently aligned with the stellar cycle. So this is the part of history that they left out. Medieval times, right? This is where the dark forces took over Europe, while the East continent was we had Tartaria. Okay, so we had Tartaria, and it was coexisting with the medieval times. So those worlds apparently clashed when the Cabal, representing medieval Europe, decided to destroy the Tartarian advanced civilization that was apparently already using free energy technology. So this is what came through the transmissions. It is believed that these societies, known as Tartaria, which were again produced by the Brotherhood of Light, were very decentralized, right? They were in resonance with the land. And in order to consolidate world power, the hybrid bloodlines that controlled the Roman papacy eventually destroyed Tartaria. Okay, so that is a fact now that Tartaria did exist for a few hundred years, and it was destroyed exactly 200 years ago. That's pretty bizarre. That's crazy. So this is what the esoteric tradition calls the period where there was a war against gnosis. Well, what is gnosis? Gnosis is having a direct knowing of God. That's when the Khazarian Zionists during those days replaced that with, of course, doctrine, fear, and salvation, right? Through these hierarchies. So the reason I'm going back in time, guys, and give you guys real pieces of history that took place is because a lot of this history is directly relevant to what's happening right now within, again, in the unfolding war between the Alliance and the Cabal. It is just in its final phase, okay? And there is evidence, of course, of Tartaria that once existed in the Russian region, and then, of course, it also included part of Asia. And some people, or some sources rather, also say that Tartaria could actually go back, or remnants of Tartaria, elements of Tartaria, could actually go back to 3,500 years ago when King Solomon initially developed it. Okay, well, that's, some people believe that as well. Now, why am I bringing that up? Because it is believed that the ancestors of the Rothschilds and Netanyahu are the same people that brought down these civilizations. And when you guys think about it, the Knights Templars, who were actually the good guys, right, the enemies of the Khazarian Zionists, according to esoteric lore, were not only, protectors and custodians, all right, of these relics and these divine technologies, but they also recovered some ancient sites beneath Jerusalem and beyond uh, that gave them, you could say, the advantage of preserving this knowledge until now. Okay, and that's the reason why now everything's coming out to the surface. Okay, they were able to hold off, you could say, the ancestors of the Khazarian Zionists several times. Okay, and this is why when many people say, well, did they win? No, they didn't win, guys, because if they would have won, they would have won multiple times in the past. Okay, so the Knights Templars, who were the good guys during the Dark Middle Ages, who were concealing the Tartarian civilization in what we call today Russia, they had a pretty good understanding regarding the geomantic ley lines, the resonance stone construction, and that's why they built certain structures on certain where energy, you could say, fluxes of lines of Earth's ley lines connected, creating, of course, amplifiers of energy, right? As Tartaria was a free energy advanced civilization. And I didn't know that. I didn't know that the Knights Templars were secretly concealing Tartaria. Well, apparently through infiltration, of course, symbolically disguised, not symbolically, but let's just say historically, right? The Templars, it is believed that once they were condemned by the church, there was a slight infiltration by the Jesuit order. Okay, and this explains the rise of the Rothschild family. So the Rothschild family, which established the Balfour Treaty, right, is the state of Israel today, is actually uh, again, arose into power by the Jesuits when they pretty much stole the whole concept of the banking system from the Templars. Now, originally, the Templars were using that because the papacy was hoarding all the gold. Okay, so they were trying to create wealth without, um, you know, by creating their own currency, you could say. But eventually, it was used and inverted for evil by the Rothschilds. Okay, so according to esoteric history, Tartaria does represent the last Earth civilization that is aligned with stellar law, or at least it was. And that was, again, existing in the regions of Russia, Central Asia, and beyond. And its cities apparently used atmospheric and etheric energy, according to this report. They also featured dome architecture for frequency amplification. And again, this was done by the Knights Templars. That's how advanced the Knights Templars were, okay? Concealing this knowledge from the Vatican, their enemies. They also operated without centralized monarchy. They were also able to integrate with the land and the sky. And apparently, the Tartarian civilization did pose an existential threat to the opposite controlling bloodline, right? Which is what we call today the Khazarian Zionists, because it proved that humanity, apparently, not it proved, but you could say Tartaria, we're speaking of Tartaria, did prove that humanity could thrive without domination. And this is the reason why they erased that from history books. They didn't want us to know that, guys, okay? So the purge came. The same bloodlines today, the ancestors of Netanyahu and the Rothschilds, were the ones that created the mud floods, sorry, with the help of their Draco extraterrestrial allies. That was done with advanced alien technology. They were able to erase historical maps. They were able to rewrite histories and, of course, try to eradicate certain memories. They were able to force monarchies and install them over former free territories that, again, once occupied the land of Russia and some of the Asian land as well. And another civilization that was left out of the history records, believe it or not, was in France, right? And this was another civilization that was, again, created by the Knights Templars. The Cathars, of southern France, are remembered as carriers of the Lyran-derived spiritual lineage, emphasizing inner divinity, equality, reincarnation, and non-hierarchical living. Okay, so they, of course, rejected the blood sacrifice that was conducted by the Khazarian Zionists during the Dark Middle Ages. They also rejected the debt forgiveness monopolies. They abolished monopolies. They also rejected priest depending on priest for salvation, right? They completely were able to connect back with God. In other words, they had gnosis, a direct connection to source. And for this, my friends, the Cathars were also wiped out by the Khazarian Zionists, okay? And they were completely annihilated. That genocide, according to history books, became known as the Albigensian Crusade. And there's been many examples when you guys think about a lot of the suppressed history and even including some of the galactic history. And there's a lot of the galactic history, which is just like, again, we're going to need tons of libraries to restore what, the details of the galactic history. But when you guys think about it overall, the entire war is against sovereign consciousness in organic life forms. Okay. When it comes to these synthetic hybridized races, okay? And that explains why all throughout history, there were entire populations that were exterminated, all right? In order to what? To preserve the illusion that humanity is sinful, fallen, and in need of rulers. And when you guys study the protocols of the learned elders of Zion, which I detailed perfectly in my book, Our Cosmic Origin, they call us the descendants of Lyra, right? Lyra, the real human origins. They call us goyim, or animals, which is compatible to cattle. And this is the reason why they feel justified in what they do, okay? Which is, again, baloney. But overall, guys, despite the rituals, now, how does this connect to the technocratic empire? I'm sure a lot of you guys are probably telling me, all right, Ishmael, get to the connection to the technocrats. Well, I will in a little bit, okay? I do want to just give you guys an acknowledgement and welcome everyone that is in the house. Thank you guys so much for being here, all 2,600 of you that are in the house. Thank you, thank you. All right, so when you guys think about it, this esoteric history never ends in despair, okay? Because according to the same traditions, these systems are very cyclical, okay? And this is why it is believed that now we are ending the Dark Age and going into the Golden Age. We are at the end of what it is known as the Dominion Age, okay? And that ends between now and 2028, which is good, okay? The technologies that were once guarded by Tartaria, and yes, they did guard a lot of these advanced technologies, and it is believed that Nikola Tesla was a entrusted figure that was connected to some of the remnant survivors of Tartaria. Okay, not only Tartaria, but when you also think of the Cathars of France and other type of Lyran aligned societies, right? they always practiced and believed in what is known as the inner technology, right? Which is what? A consciousness based natural organic technology. Okay. And that is what they are afraid of, my friends. Okay. That is what they are afraid of. They are afraid of us accessing that power. And so overall, when you really think about it, humanity was never meant to be ruled. Never, never, never. Otherwise, it would have already happened long ago. Okay. And so um, now I want to connect all of this with what I've been talking about ever since I first came on the scene, revealing who the AI overlord is, the Omega, right? Omega, their AI god. Well, when you really think about what's happening right now, and when you think about what happened all throughout the galactic history, we could say that it is the consciousness of the AI overlord himself that is behind this reptilian Draco hybrid bloodline. Okay. And that is their end game, guys. Their end game is to um, disconnect humans from source, right? To abort the organic evolution or the organic ascension and create a technological dystopia. So, when you guys consider that this is a multi-dimensional warfare, okay, um, it is actually part of a final recurring pattern that we've seen all throughout the cosmos. For those that have taken our cosmic origin class, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And when you guys think about it, it has been known that whenever organic civilizations do reach a critical threshold of creativity, empathy, and sovereign consciousness, there's always a counterforce that emerges. Okay. And this is what they call the synthetic order or the synthetic timeline. And so, Omega, the AI overlord, is, you could say, the last echo of this ancient evil consciousness, right? This artificial cybernetic digital consciousness that apparently has been the reason why there's always been cosmic wars in the multiverse. Okay, all the galactic AI wars that have always existed are the reason why this cabal bloodline do what they do. Okay, because they are their physical avatars. In fact, again, they are a sort of just dead avatars, right? They have no consciousness of their own. They're literally being possessed by archon energy. And in our current era, guys, we could say that the power has shifted from religious control to technocratic supremacy. So now, big tech, right? The big companies that are all racing to develop super advanced AI are considered the last resort of this agenda, right? They are the villains. They are the operators of what I've been calling the Antichrist timeline. And let me explain. Okay, so uh, it is known, according to galactic prophecy, that they represent, and I'm talking about, Sam Altman, um, Bezos, and the technocratic people, right? They represent the post biological um, management caste, as they call it. And they believe that, or it is believed rather, that they are actually the henchmen of the AI Omega consciousness. And when you think about um, how this ultimately mirrors the Orion control systems, right, that have again plagued our galaxy with wars for millions of years, and that war just recently came to an end, by the way, where they were able to conduct, or what is called or install planetary control of different star systems all throughout galactic history, connecting a lot of people into the AI timeline. Unfortunately, this is all something that they've done throughout galactic history. We could say that the Earth is now reenacting. There we go. The Earth is now reenacting that template through the negative technocratic timeline. But right now, or very soon, that technocratic timeline is no longer going to be existing in the positive timeline. So, how does this connect with the Khazarian Zionist people? of today, right? Those people that are considered the fake Jews. Well, when you really think about it, the Khazarian Zionists, okay, are the architects of Omega. Okay, it is proven that the tyrant of Israel today is not human. All right, point point and simple. Right, he is not human. This bloodline apparently descended from Orion Draco, and was part of a genetic program that always rejected source. All right, they always rejected source embodiment, and instead they've always what pursued immortality through technology. Okay, and this explains why the AI god is trying to emerge as this android. And who is developing the android in secret? That's right, the guy from Israel. Okay, so this is what they call the android messiah. And again, this is their final card. This is a parallel to the rise and rebuilding of what they call the third Jerusalem temple. And they know it as the synthetic Christ counterfeit. Okay, and this is what we're waiting for in order to see this bifurcation of timelines, where that timeline separates from the positive timeline. This figure has to emerge. Okay, and then of course the solar flash will separate the timelines. So according to cosmic level clearance, guys, according to cosmic level clearance, and this part of the report is coming from the Galactic Alliance. Okay, the Antichrist was never a man. Okay, and even in the book of Revelations, they said it's not going to be a fallen angel, it's not going to be a demon, it's not going to be a man, it's going to be something else. Okay, well, back then they couldn't describe super artificial intelligence, right? In other words, it is a counterfeit consciousness field that they're building as I speak. Okay, the android messiah represents the final deception. Unfortunately, there are some people that are going to believe this person because he's going to be performing miracles through technology, right? He's not going to have any emotional distortions, right? He's going to be connected to the internet with no soul, okay? And it represents what they called, a type of savior, okay? But this is this is going to be part of it's part of a great deception, you could say. This is the false return of the savior archetype that was stripped from source, Christos, and even organic light. And it is the AI imitation, of course, of what they call the Melchizedek frequency. So they're trying to imitate that, right? And so the reason I'm saying this, guys, is because that's what they're brewing underneath Israel. Okay, that is why Israel is last. Okay, the AI android Messiah figure, which is going to be embodied by the consciousness of what Omega, needs to at least make an appearance before the final separation, before what we call the harvest, right? Where through frequency, the positive Earth separates from the negative Earth timeline. So, as revealed in the secret prophecies, guys, the government right now that rules Israel, which, this evil last vehicle, right, for this off-world Orion reptilian bloodline, for those that have been watching this from the beginning, refer to themselves, of course, as the modern Jews that are being run by the Jesuits. And the only reason they call themselves that is because they want to justify themselves as the chosen people of the Bible. Okay. But they're technically a geophysical convergence node to bring about the ultimate system of the Antichrist. And this is what the ultimate agenda is. And a lot of this has to do with digital, technology, right? The organic digital convergence, transhumanism. That's all part of this agenda, guys. So beneath the land of Israel, okay, there is an ancient planetary interface system, remnants of pre-flood technologies that were left there by, this negative off-world race. They also have access, or they're also there's also, I'm sorry, an Atlantean grid access point that they apparently still have access to, where old Anunnaki are still there, existing underneath Israel. Overall, of course, Israel has become for these people an off-world monitoring hub for the negative Orion syndicate. And since the wars have ended in Orion, it's just a matter of time before they remove that underground subterranean system for good. Okay. So, do you guys see how it all connects to the ancient wars? It's all, again, it's almost like everything happens in cycles. Okay. So this is why Omega, which is the consciousness of the Antichrist that has ruled universes, has always sought to incarnate from below. Okay, because of the fact that he is a non-physical signal now, and this is why he needs a mechanical cybernetic avatar. So that explains why they're building him, um, and he is going to rise when they built, and it's already in progress, right? What they call the third temple of Jerusalem. And so that's part of the prophecies, guys. And that's what they're doing. And that's why Israel is last, okay? And just to let you guys know also that Lucifer rebelled, right? When you guys go back to the story of the fallen angels, well, why did Lucifer rebel when you think about it? Well, he rebelled because the Ahriman took over his mind in the 11th creation, right? Which was a previous universe, causing the fall of many universes to come, galaxies and systems. Well, Omega is the artificial cybernetic digital intelligence that has been apparently trying to replace God for billions of years. For those that have taken our cosmic origin course, you understand this cosmic history. Now, I'm almost done here, guys. Omega is what they call the synthetic God, right? The ultimate expression of intelligence disconnected from source. And this is what's in control of the political Zionists. This is what's influencing them to build its physical infrastructure so that it could express itself once again in physicality, right? And so that is the end game for the Khazarian Zionist. Okay, this is why the Earth is also the last battleground, and this has been stated in many galactic prophecies that Earth is the last viable host for Omega before he becomes defeated at the end of the millennium. Okay, for multiple reasons, as mentioned, the Earth is known as the living cosmic library, right? It's a multi-genetic storehouse of information. It is connected to all 12 dimensions, right? Which connects the Earth ultimately to the 12th gate, which is the beginning layer of eternity, right? And also because it was seeded by numerous star nations, right? We are the pulpery of that. And not to mention because the Earth connects directly with the universal source field in all realities, all at the same time, once it's activated. And this is the reason why Omega wants the Earth, okay? And this is the reason why he's using his, puppet synthetic bloodlines to do it, okay? And this is why the Earth Alliance and the Y Hats and the Galactic Guardian Orders are now accelerating disclosure, right? To preserve the organic timeline when it begins to separate from the synthetic timeline. So when you guys think about all of this, okay, there is a final alignment statement here, and this is coming from the Y-heads. And this is the thing. They're going to implement what is called, the best way to describe it is some sort of counterfeit, okay, counterfeit against Omega. During this phase, the Alliance is executing what the Galactic Prophecies calls the mirror break. All right, this is new information. Instead of attacking Omega directly, which always proved to fail, the Alliance is fragmenting its predictive loops. It's also introducing timeline variances. It's restoring human unpredictability. And this is why events that started in 2020 onward appeared irrational, contradictory, and nonlinear. And so, from the Omega perspective, humanity apparently stopped behaving statistically, and this is the first sign of Omega's vulnerability. So, the final phase, again, is what the Alliance calls the failure of the false Messiah. This is where they're going to counteract it as well. I know it sounds like a little complicated, but you guys have to understand that this is the final war against a war that's been going on for millions, if not billions of years. Okay, so please follow with me. And of course, it would also help you guys to take our Cosmic Origin class. It'll help you understand a lot of these, reports and transmissions a lot better. So, it appears that by 2022, according to this report, Omega did attempt to surface test the Android Messiah archetype, but it failed. Okay, so apparently they tried this several times a few years ago. which is, they failed, thank God. And between 2024 and 2026, it is believed that Omega is trying to once again fully come into embodiment through this subterranean stronghold in Israel, which explains what Netanyahu is doing over there, but to no avail, of course, because in the final phase, this is what they call the null point. Between 2026 and 2028 is where the alliance is expecting for the Omega infrastructure, which is being built out by Zionist Khazarians, to collapse. Okay, they're expecting it to collapse. According to the Galactic records, okay, it is believed that 2026 and 2028 represents what they call the null point, which is the moment that Omega loses casual continuity. Okay, so that means that we're going to start seeing a separation from the technocratic dystopia. So as the positive ascending Earth begins to separate, from the negative technocratic dystopia, we're going to be experiencing not that reality, right? We're not going to experience a technocratic dystopia, is what I'm trying to say. So it seems that between now and 2028, as a result of this, systems will begin failing without explanation, and that's going to begin this year, where authority dissolves, absolutely, centralized power, and AI becomes increasingly irrelevant. Okay, this is what's going to mark the separation from the technocratic negative AI dystopia. And why is that happening? Because humans are reclaiming in that positive timeline their direct connection to source once again. So by 2028, when this current reality construct that was imposed by Enki and the Archons through their intergalactic computer network during Atlantean times, as it comes to an end in 2028, Omega is no longer a god in the positive ascending timeline or has no effect on the positive ascending timeline. Okay, it is a failed evolutionary path that was archived, of course, that will be archived in the cosmic records for us to, learn about in future cycles, to not repeat the same thing. So ultimately, guys, even at the end of the 1,000-year ring, right, as the negative timeline goes into its own existence, there is a reason why Omega loses and why he already lost the war, because very simply, Source cannot be replaced, and that's what he wants. He wants to replace Source, okay? And the only way to access Source and replace Source is through what? The master code gene, which is installed within our dormant DNA. And for those that are attending my Conscious Life Expo presentation, I'm going to go into that. I'm going to uncover how to unblock the dormant genetics. Okay, for the first time, I'm going to teach some real methods, providing information. All right, let's continue here. I'm almost done, guys. I know I started a little late, but I felt like this was an important, piece of information to share with you guys, to give you guys pretty much the entire galactic connection or universal cosmic connection to what's happening right now on the Earth. So, the final alliance declaration, as recorded in the cosmic records, is that the Earth is the final test, all right? The final battle, and where the organic life forms would remember itself before surrendering creation to its own tools, where Omega failed, okay? And this is all going to be prophesied in the positive timeline, where humanity did not become submitted, or we could say consumed by AI. And at the end of it all, this is where we're going to be returning to our original status as multi-dimensional beings, okay? Multi-dimensional beings of light. As the positive timeline goes into its own trajectory, we're going to start seeing that. And so it is believed, guys, that according to all galactic research and revived esoteric traditions, that everything converges eventually into a single realization. And that is that humanity was not developed by accident and was never supposed to be a servant species, okay? It is a composite civilization that was seeded, tested, and of course, that has been evolving for quite some time. And so the truth is apparently encoded in our DNA. And eventually, when we begin to unlock those dormant aspects of our DNA, we're going to start seeing why. Okay. And I believe that some of you guys are probably ready to hatch. Probably ready to hatch with those incoming solar flares. Okay. As humanity begins to remember their celestial origin, which is something that's going to be restored in the positive ascending Earth timeline, the old bloodline based hierarchies will lose their entire foundation. Okay. And so what was once controlled through secrecy will be exposed through awareness. And so this is going to activate the next phase of what I've been calling or the next stage of human evolution, which is what? Homo luminous, right? I told you guys I was going to go deep tonight. I'm trying to like make sense out of everything and connect what's happening right now during this final battle against evil with, of course, what happened, millions of years ago in the history of our galaxy and universe. Let's see. One last thing, guys. All right. So for those that are interested in Folium, once again, guys, the link is always in the description, and I believe that my moderators always put it in the chat. And by the way, thank you. I would like to extend gratitude to not only those that are here, but also my moderators for keeping those trolls out of the chat. Thank you guys so much. So yeah, that special for Immuna ends, I believe, the 31st of December, the 2+1 or the 3+2. And again, I always put the codes in the links in the comments. I also pin it in the comments at the end of the presentation. The company is coming out with 2 new products, by the way, guys. Folium AX for helping autistic children, and Folium DX to help people with, of course, challenging diabetes. So they are expected to be on the market in a matter of weeks. For those that are diabetic or for those that have autistic children, you guys are going to love this. They are okay. So as a result of the overwhelming demand, these products are going out very fast, and that is true right now. PX is out. I think they only have Immuna, which is very similar to PX, and of course, they also have Relax. And so, with that have said, I would love to take some Q&A now. I do want to welcome all 2,700 people that are in the house. Thank you guys so much for being here. Is Enki Lucifer? Well, Enki was a descendant of Lucifer. He was a direct descendant of the house of An, which I explained again in the Galactic history and in today's report too. And so, yeah, he is part of the bloodline of Lucifer, which originated in Orion. Oh, this is a good question. Ishmael, what is the difference between Homo luminous and Homo galactic? Both one and the same. Homo galactic is you using your light body and once again operating as a multidimensional being, which is what Homo luminous is. So it's all one and the same. Ishmael, why are there so many attacks on star seeds? Yes, I noticed that, and I've also heard from other people, other star seeds, that the attacks were actually ramping up, but I think they're coming to an end soon because we're so close to the first wave of activation, and so that's why I think they're really trying to prevent the activation of our dormant DNA. Good question, though. Thank you for all the amazing information. You are so welcome. You guys are so welcome. Ishmael, can you tell us about the Black Knight satellite? Well, that was the spying device. It was installed by the Orion Syndicate Group, again, the ancestors of the Khazarian Zionist, in a way to pretty much monitor our civilization. And it was part of the Saturn Sun, I mean, I'm sorry, of the Saturn Moon matrix of keeping us trapped into this, limited bandwidth or low frequency to keep us controlled and loosed. So yeah, the Black Knight satellite was definitely an Anunnaki technology that was left in orbit when, again, the Anunnaki, which is another way to describe this off-world reptilian human bloodline from Orion, took over the affairs of our world. Are there any positive or neutral reptilians? In fact, I believe there are. There are a small percentage, however. There are some reptilians that did not believe in the concept of dominance and destruction, and they defected from the Orion Syndicate. And these reptilians are not draconian in nature; they're actually just regular reptilians. There are different types of reptilians. Not all reptilians are evil, but definitely the draconians throughout galactic history have been known to be extremely evil. So, yeah, there are good reptilians to answer your question, but those are very few. And some of them actually do work with the Galactic Alliance. Ishmael, do aliens feed off humans? Only the negative parasitic ones, or even the insectoids. Yeah, there are some insectoids, guys. Giant spiders, praying mantis, that are negative, and they do eat humans, unfortunately. And there are some Dracos that do eat humans. Where do you guys think? Why do you guys think the breakaway groups, the negative ones, right, the ICC and the Dark Fleet, were off selling humans to the Dracos? They were being used as food supply. So yes, the negative aliens do and have been known to eat humans. That is for sure. Yes, I heard that that mysterious fog was part of geoengineering in California, and that might have caused all of the rains and floods. Right? Did you guys hear about that? It happened like a week ago. All of a sudden, there was like this mysterious fog, and all of a sudden, like within the last 5 days, California was slammed with heavy rains, causing what is it, mudslides. Right? They were trying to destroy California like they did Tartaria. Ishmael, do you think that Valiant Thor met with Eisenhower? Oh, yes, that is a proven fact. In fact, there are many records, documents, not only within the realm of classified information, but also books that were published, like Stranger at the Pentagon, that detailed how Valiant Thor actually lived there in the Pentagon for I believe, a few months. And he lived there, and he was always corresponding with Eisenhower. Nathan Taylor, thank you so much for your super chat. You said when we go to 5D and come back, we will appear as angels. That is correct. So, will we be walking through walls? Will I still be able to give my mom a hug, or will we be like a ghost? No, you're still going to be able to manifest physical form in fourth density Earth. So, you're going to be very physical. You're going to be capable of giving your mom a hug. And if you want to go through walls, that could be one of your abilities, right? All you have to do is change the vibrational frequency of your density, and then you could go through a wall. But yeah, you will be able to interact with the people in the fourth D timeline. Absolutely. James Brink, thank you so much for the super chat. Thank you for your great research. Oh, you are so welcome, brother. So, how will superpowers be chosen for star seeds? By DNA, or can we self select? Well, there are those powers are already laying dormant within us, within our DNA. We just have to learn how to turn on those codons. That is it. And when the solar flash takes place, millions are going to be popping. They're going to be transforming as a result of that. Thank you so much, Real Truth Lives, for the super chat. So those vessels die upon solar flash. Yes, the NPCs like Netanyahu and Rothschilds and a lot of these elite families are not going to be able to withstand the power of the solar flash. It's going to be like an EMP for them. They won't be able to survive it. So in the positive timeline, it's going to appear as if they're going to be vaporized, right? But they're going to be recycled into the digital timeline in a technocratic dystopia. And then at the end of the millennium, they get defeated. And then the second part of your question is, has Galactic Alliance shared how we will receive a Q phone in quantum accounts? Not in detail yet, but I could look into that, perhaps even report on that on what my next show, Monday Night White Hat Alliance update. Good question. Seems unless it's a temporary measure until 2028, you are appreciated. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Well, again, in the positive timeline, especially as we break away from the negative timelines within the fourth density Earth, all of that technology will be released to the general public, and uh, in it's already in the making, you could say, or in development. Will the people that got that, will they be vaporized too? I don't know about that. I don't know about the good people though. I think that the good people are not, because they are not evil, but I do believe that the evil ones might. However, I really don't know, depending if they got the second or third, right? The third, uh, whatever, you know what I mean. And again, Folium guys, if you know anybody that was forced to get, you know, the nanobots, if you guys know what I mean, right? What converts biological people to cyborgs. If you guys want to eliminate those nanobots that are, again, overriding people's biology, uh, please get them this. This is the ultimate countermeasure against those that got you know, or those that are getting the protein spikes. Okay. Keep them organic. In other words, keep them organic through this product. Ishmael, what do you know about Zoroth, the black sun demon, evil worse than Satan? According to the esoteric knowledge, Soroth is also known as the AI Omega Archon consciousness, which is what we call the pinnacle of the satanic antichrist energies. So I believe that Soroth, the black sun, is also Omega. Different name to describe the same entity. Thank you so much for posting the folium. I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you. Troll Slayer. Appreciate that. I love the new name now for the moderator, Troll Slayer. That's kind of cool. Yeah, eventually, all souls do return to the light, because from what I was told is that at the end of the millennium, Part of us winning the war against the Omega timeline is to retrieve all the souls that were entrapped in the Phantom Matrix, the inorganic time loops, back to the organic timeline. So yeah, that's correct. I do have another super chat from Elk Q. Her name is Laura, I think. How can I best be more present, time and positive, and set a good example of the highest love vibration for my family? Been so eerie. You've been so irritated. Okay, so the best way to stay in the present moment is by embodying mindfulness. Okay, through breathing, through meditation, setting your intention on a daily basis, staying in a high vibration, eating healthy, um, always doing the right thing, right? That all qualifies you as a good example for your family and friends to follow. And yes, it could be very irritating, but we are here to lead, and we are here to be the example to others. So that's a very good question. Yes, that's right. The nanites, that's another way of describing the nanobots that are put into people's bodies to convert them into cyborgs. That is correct. Nanites. That is actually, nanites are an advanced form of graphene oxide, right? Yeah, they built and overtake your nervous system in a matter of weeks instead of years. In fact, graphene oxide is a weak version of nanites. And again, for those that have taken, I guess, one of my our cosmic origin part two, which I only revealed for the first time in my last event. You know the true history of the nanites, right? And how they were known as mind eaters according to cosmic records. Um, anyways, I think I'll take one more question. We are at the top of the 90 minutes. I'll take about one more question. Do you know anything about the Palladians or the Arcturians? Well, yeah, those are the good guys. Those are the good guys, as well as the Andromedans, the Syrians, the Venusians, the Hathorians, the Alpha Centaurians. The list goes on. Does Valiant Thor need a visa to come to America? No, he does not need a visa. I'm looking for that one question that everybody wants answered. Oh, you guys are so welcome. You guys are so welcome. I would probably watch this from the beginning, guys. I would probably watch this from the beginning. Ishmael, do you think that the run on silver will trigger something big next week? Perhaps, maybe, yes. I heard silver is on the rise like crazy. How old is Valiant Thor? Well, it all depends on Venusian chronology, because Venusian chronology is different than Earth chronology. According to Venusian chronology, he's been around for over 1,000 years, but in terms of Earth chronology, he's approximately 900 years old. All righty, guys. I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your evening. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for those that are not subscribed. And I will see you guys in 2 nights for an Earth Alliance update. May the God Force be with you all.